Hello, and welcome back to the Richard Talaferro podcast, where we take a look at career insights and give advice to career changers. Today's guest brings a unique blend of performance, precision, and purpose to everything she does. Liz Donahey is a competitive mountain bike racer and the author of the 23 Principles of Mountain Biking, which draws powerful connections between endurance sports, leadership, and business strategy. In this conversation, we'll be talking about how the grit and discipline of racing translates into growing brands, how pacing and risk taking show up in leadership, and how a performance mindset can help you navigate reinvention. Liz, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, for our audience, could you give us a quick intro into who you are and what you are currently working on?
Sure. I'm Liz Donahey. I just started a fantastic new magazine called MTB Girls Magazine. We launched our first issue in January, and now we're on our fifth issue. And like you said, I'm taking the same principles that I'm learning about pacing and racing on the trail and
Mhm.
translating that into business principles. And I have been for I'd say about the last 15 years. So it all kind of started when I was riding one day and climbing this huge hill, and I thought, geez, if I can climb this hill and get to the top this fast, it made everything else so much easier. And so getting through that and realizing, I started to make the symbolisms and the analogies to, if we take a harder path sometimes, it may be a lot faster if we're more skillful in taking a harder path in business. It's going to get us up there a lot faster with a lot of less time, effort, energy, money, cost wasted, than taking maybe the longer route that maybe look a little easier, look like the easier path, but it
Mhm.
may take us a lot longer and we may get lost along the way. So I did my first Toastmasters on the 7 principles of success over 15 years ago. And then once I started getting on this amazing Hello Mello Racing, the North Bay's premier mountain bike team in Northern California here, based out of Santa Rosa, California, we're sponsored by the Trail House. We step up and show up. Being on this team and the acumen of racing and knowing how to race and how to recover and how to kind of manage that with everything else in my life and balance everything else was extremely rewarding. And so I excelled pretty quickly in from beginner in 2020 to expert last year. And now I'm doing my first series of endurance races. I just finished a 50-mile race last month at 6,000 feet. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And then I'm able to do what I love and take those stories and tell people and inspire people in the magazine and share it out, and translate those skills back into working with people in everyday life, my advertisers and editorial team, and planning different events and not being afraid to try new things because I know I've tested and proven certain methodologies that have been successful, and I've learned how to not sign up for things and try to avoid things that where we're not going to get on that podium. Like maybe it's not the right time to sign up for that race, or let's use that as a metaphor for maybe
Mhm.
that's not the right customer for us, or not the right partner for us. That's a huge theme, in learning how to partner well with anybody on and off the trail. So those are just a few things on the background.
Okay, and with the making those connections, it sounds like it's a matter of understanding the situation that's in front of you and figuring out, okay, is this the right move for me to make at this time? Is
Mhm.
that right?
Yeah, and knowing okay, what's the ultimate goal and why am I doing this? Is it, what are the financial gains? What are the human psychological happiness gains in my life that I'm going to get? And am I prepared to do that? If you are, if the answer is yes, then you can reverse engineer yourself from the finish line to the start line and back. And it's really good to map out in strategies what, like for startups, I've worked with many, many startups over the last 25 years. I've been a digital marketer working with startups and start overs. And like most people wait 20 years to make $1 million when really it's $2,700 a day is $1 million a year. Like if you map out that course, and winning really is about who can get out on that start line first, who's even getting your foot on the pedal position right, your hands in the right position, knowing the type of race or type of industry you're going after, right? You get out first and you finish first. That's who wins, right? And
Right.
and there's a finite number of winners out there. Maybe in business, well, with racing, it's 3 on the podium, but in racing, it's similar to business. Not everybody can win at what they do. Um, Everyone can try, so it's good to be good at the ones you're signing up to win at. It's good to be strategic.
Sure, exactly. And it also sounds like there's a lot of preparation in your mountain bike racing that you have to do in order to get to the start line. What are
Yeah.
the parallels between that and uh, your marketing work in your
Mhm. Well, I would say like if you're going to compare a marketing campaign for a client, you want to make sure that you're partnering well with your teammates. So let's use Wente is an 8-hour endurance race. Now it sounds crazy, but yeah, we're going to sign up and we're going to ride for 8 hours with my teammates. And so what we've been doing is committing. You have to commit to that ride. One of the principles is commit to that ride. And if you're not willing to, you need to speak up early and prep early. Like that's even early planning. Am I going to be able to get there? And by the time you get to a race, or by the time you're in front of a customer, or by the time you're ready to launch that campaign, whether it be for selling iPhones or I don't know, marketing plans, doesn't matter. You're prepared in advance. You've already done the diligence and preparation. So by the time you get to the start line, it's easy. And preparing is really about mapping out a strategy, seeing it from start to finish, and anticipating the challenges before you get there. And
Mhm.
so, like with Wente, it's going to be, I'm going to be over prepared. I
Okay.
told my teammates, I said to lead in front, you have to see ahead. I said, just knowing that I want to be able to help where I can, and you have to know your strengths and your weaknesses. Um, they may be really fast downhill, they may be really fast climbers, but I know overall I'm fast up and fast down and have more endurance. So I said, if you only want to do 2 laps, I'll do 4. So I'm training for 35 to 40 miles in a row, even though we'll have a chance in breaks in between.
Mhm.
I'm going to be showing up to that race prepared to do the whole thing by myself. You know what I mean? That's the mindset. Like, okay, I'm going to be able to finish it and complete it just in case a risk happens, or just like with business, we lose partners, we lose funds, something doesn't go our way. We're still able to win in the end
Okay.
and get on that podium. Like, so right now I'm pacing at, you have to calculate, okay, my average, an Olympic pace in a mountain bike race may be 12 miles per hour, right?
Okay.
You calculate out, okay, it's going to be 1,100 feet. It's going to be about 9 miles around. My average pace needs to be around 45 minutes. The fastest woman ever, I researched, so do a lot of diligence, is research, she did it in 36 minutes. So if I'm in the range of 36 to 45, I'm going to be doing hella good. So right now I'm training at that pace, and
Okay.
learning like, okay, I'm going to need more carbohydrate fuel replacement in my water. I'm going to be needing to eat every 30 minutes at this new pace. So you step up your game, get the tools, resources, whatever you need way in advance, and not half-ass it, like, let's say,
Sure.
and burn yourself out and not be able to do it. You want to reliably, consistently be able to carry out a process over and over again, gain that momentum in business so that it kind of takes on its own momentum, keep up that forward momentum. Now I'm up to 35 miles an hour, or not in an hour, 35 miles without cramping. And a couple
Okay.
weeks ago, I was cramping consistently at the 20 mile mark. I was cramping. Now I listen to others. I research, I listen to my coaches, like, okay, you need to have two scoops of scratch, or you need these hydration or carbohydrate replacements, all way
Mhm.
before you start riding, during the ride, and after for recovery.
Okay.
So that's just,
Mhm.
getting into
Mhm.
more of the science of it, but it's the
Sure.
same thing with business. You have to have the right tools, partners, technology, strategies, all of that to carry it through, right?
Sure. That
Otherwise,
makes
it's going to take forever to get something done, right?
right.
Hmm.
And so I'm also curious, you being a competitive racer and experienced racer, you know that things go sideways during a race, and
Yeah.
things can go sideways during a practice,
Mhm.
a practice round. How do you deal with that during your training and during a race? And how does that translate into your thought process for business?
Good question. Well, I think one thing is, especially as women, we have to know that we're a lot more capable and powerful than we think, and we can fix our own flats. We
Mhm.
have to practice in advance, or a lot of the times we have such a wonderful mountain bike community that someone will stop at an aid station or help us along the way and fix the flat. Or if we get cramps, make sure that you stop and you get some hydration, fuel, goo, whatever your Cliff Bars, whatever. Something may go wrong. If you crash, make sure that you get that. You don't just ignore the problem, you address the problem quickly and without feeling embarrassed, feeling ashamed. Everybody fails, but I've learned, even with the recent success of this magazine, learned things that I never thought I would have to learn.
Mm.
So especially with the magazine being, with the new tariffs and charges outside in Canada. A lot of our subscribers are in Canada. So you learn quickly how to not take it personally.
Right.
Water off a duck. With racing, it's the same thing. Like, things are going to happen. You just keep pedaling. You keep pedaling. And a lot of the times, for me, knock on wood, I haven't had any of those issues yet, but I'm prepared to handle them mentally. A lot of it is mental, and not take things, not over or underreact to things, not make things worse, not make a trash fire out of your weaknesses, I call it, and
Okay.
rely on others. Like, you're not alone, like, in this. Like, last night, for example, was fun. Our team, I led the first co-ed ride of the year, so I
Okay.
was preparing throughout my day, even though I had a lot of meetings to attend for the magazine, and I fit in the time. My bike needed to be prepared. I needed, clean my drivetrain, make sure it was smooth. I don't want to show up with a bunch of badass, like, fast racers. Excuse my French. Men are These men are the fastest of the men, like men,
Mhm.
almost pro. Like, we're pros last night, and pro women on our team, that can keep up with them. But I didn't want to show up and lead a ride where I didn't know where we're going. So, like with business, I already had in mind a route that they were going to love. that they were going to
Okay.
get the most out of this experience and they were familiar with. So we planned it. So one of my teammates came up early and she had the camera and she was going to film everybody doing a gap jump. We made the most out of that 3-hour ride, right? And it was fantastic. Then it goes out on social media. So the more we planned ahead, the better the outcome was. And then, we had Annalise, who's a pro. She can keep up with all the fast men no matter what. And
Mhm.
by the way, she just had a baby. Like her baby's only 8 months old right now, and she was racing with that mindset we have. Just within 4 months, she was on the podium, second place, winning that 50-mile race that I did. Right?
That's fantastic.
So, learning from others who are faster, better, smarter at something, like not have an ego, like I want to learn from you. So you draft, and then you can pass when you're ready. And I said to her last night on the trail, I said, hey, I said to her a couple times, I know she's faster than me. She's this fastest French girl on our team. Incredible athlete. I said, let me know when you want to pass on the downhill part because she's going to go faster on that than I am. Like, not be a jerk. Like, let people pass you if they need to pass you. Same with business. Like, you're going to have competitors, right? That are actually they end up being your partners if you play it well. And sometimes the partners don't see that well, and they become your competitor, right? But I always say, kind and smart wins, dumb and mean loses. I tell my 3 teenage girls that. So when Annalise needs a pass, I've learned the hard way. I've had my coach tell me, Liz, when you have this is years ago, like when you have a bunch of fast people who are faster, better than you need to let them go so you don't get in their way and cause an accident and hurt somebody. Mitigate risk, like in business, right? Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Does that answer
Absolutely.
your question?
No, no, and your response was fantastic. Now,
Okay.
I go back and talk about, you mentioned your magazine. Could you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about your magazine and how the idea for that came about?
Okay. Well, I was working a couple of years ago I started writing a women's column for Mountain Bike Action, and I came up with the idea before I wrote my first article. I'm kind of fast at things, and I've always been very creative and a writer. I wrote The High Value Woman a couple of years ago, and always been a writer. And so when I proposed the idea, they weren't quite ready for it. They were a 40-year-old kind of magazine, more focused on a male audience, and I proposed that to them, and it wasn't a good, not the best time. So I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna try and be brave and go out on my own and do this, because I realized with my team and all the stories locally, nationally, internationally, there's an endless amount of stories that haven't been told. That's
Right.
the case in any group of any community. If a story hasn't if a story's been underrepresented, but we make up a huge population of the 7 million mountain bikers in the US. We make up 4 million,
Mhm.
and we're growing at a rate of 5% over the next 3 years. And um, we we are buying more, we're consuming more. We women talk an average of 400 words more per day than men on average. We got a lot to say. For all these stories since the beginning of mountain biking haven't really been told, in my opinion, enough, and had a consistent home for the stories, not just a corner like in Dirty Dancing, don't put baby in the corner, where
Sure.
these amazing women, Kate Courtney, you know, Lindsay Richter, like just it goes on, Wendy Engelberg, these women who are leading these amazing groups for women. We need to tell their stories to inspire other women to be able to do the same thing, and because they've touched so many lives. And it's not just on the racing side. These are really huge community changing events. And so I just had the chance this week to interview We interviewed Amy Ross in Bentonville, Arkansas, and then immediately, she's a huge figure in trail building in Bentonville, Arkansas. I said, "Oh, why don't I get the chief of staff? I know, I've got the chief of staff for Bentonville, Arkansas. Why don't I get her on the line too this week?" We got
Mhm.
together and collaborated, and now we're going to probably do a lifetime event. It's a lifetime television network event called Big Sugar in Bentonville, Arkansas. It's like one thing keeps leading to another and another. And like when you have women like that, like thanking me and sharing the stories that we're publishing out, it feels so good. It feels so like we're doing the right thing. Lindsay Richter was on the cover of her Girls All Ride program for May and tying it in with Mother's Day. And for her to thank me for sharing her story, like want to thank her. You're doing the right thing. So these women are so thankful and grateful, and so are the brands. Like we're working the best of the best, most influential, famous women in mountain biking. I could never ask for this. My mind has been blown. Like I never thought this would happen so fast. But
That's
yeah, go ahead.
now. I was going to ask, like, what's the reception been for your magazine?
Just just people are very thankful for being a part of it. Grateful to be sharing their stories in a magazine quality editorials and advertorials, even with our advertising partners. I'm meeting with one of the top brands in the world, Pivot Bikes, on Monday. They're so happy. They're telling me I'm so happy that you're doing this, and Yeti Bikes saying thank you for doing this for women in our industry. So stepping up and leading where there's a gap, where is there's something to be said for that. If you can be a brave leader, step up and present the stories in a way that others aren't telling them, authentic, real, inclusive, not just local, not just national, but international. Like I got the chance to freaking interview the second place winner of the first women's event ever at Red Bull Rampage. And she's in Santiago, Chile, and 100 degrees in between her races, taking the time to get interviewed with me for her cover story. I'm like, this is amazing. This is amazing. I've got Lee Donovan, the only woman ever to be in the Hall of Fame for mountain biking and dirt biking on my team. She rides with these women. She's been interviewing them too. And just the go big or go home theory, kind of not be afraid theory.
Okay.
That's the number one principle in my book. And then to follow it for full circle, from not being afraid to getting the gear you need, any technology, getting the right partners, all the way to enjoying the ride, because it doesn't matter if it's not fun. It's a big waste of time if we're not having fun, even in business, right?
Right. It
Yeah.
sounds fantastic. Now, you just mentioned your book. What is the title of your book and how did that come about?
The 23 Principles of Mountain Biking had come about when I was racing up at Annandale State Park, my home park in Santa Rosa, California, a really difficult techie climb, and called Spring Creek. And I realized, geez, if I make this move, I'm going to be less tired, but it's a little more technical. I'm going to have a little more skill. And it's just like in business, like navigating relationships or navigating negotiations in sales and marketing, or building a really difficult strategic plan. Like I started seeing and speaking in bike. So everything is an analogy. You can actually do this with many in any other sport. The ability to translate, and I forgot the word is, there's a word in the English language, a fancy word for this. But I find myself as a writer and creative person. I have a master's in sociology, so I'm always obsessed with behavior and predicting behavior and outcomes to get the best out of life, the happiest life. always inquisitive like that, curious, that I learned to make those analogies with something I love. So I had a BMX bike growing up and going camping and riding that BMX bike in Northern California, in the redwoods in Mendocino. And I remember like bringing friends along, like, you're a girl, like this is in 1980, like, how come you're on a boy's bike? Like, I knew from the start, oh, okay, it's on. It's on.
Okay.
Okay. And the girls, fast forward today to me going to the biggest, best, most famous mountain bike event on the planet, Sea Otter in Monterey, California last month. Was it this month? No, yes, April. Um, and seeing these girls to where they've advanced, it's not about mountain biking, it's about humanity. And to see these polished, beautiful, confident girls at 15, 18 years old, way ahead of where I'm at 49, and I feel like I'm learning from them because we laid the groundwork. All these women, these leaders and legends, we call it in the magazine, have carved out the groundwork for us, for these younger women. They are on fire right now. The 15-year-olds are on fire. They're the ones that are taking over because they don't think about gender, men, women, anything. They just go. And the women that I interviewed at Sea Otter are a prime example of that. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're ambitious, learning the right way, a good person, learning from the intelligence of others, have like, have the finish line in their mind, like they're in it to win it kind of attitude, they're going to win. So and you can do it with, you know, be as feminine as you want or not, but it doesn't matter. You can be yourself and win at anything, right? And you don't have to be you don't have to prescribe to a certain mold. And like in the 1980s, being called a tomboy, like that made me be even more feminine on my bike. I'm going to be in lip gloss, hair, makeup, photo ready, even if I have dirt all over my bike and I'm, bloody from a crash. I'm still going to be that. I can still be feminine in me. So I love that part of it too, is like, you don't have to be in any particular mold. So, yeah.
Okay. And how did your experiences growing up in the 80s
Yeah. Born
influence?
in 75. Yeah.
Yeah. And how did all that influence and shape the writing of your book?
Well, yeah, the first article that I actually wrote about in Mountain Bike Action had a picture of me and an illustration of me getting over my fear. It was called, and it's the first chapter of the book, Don't Be Afraid to Ride. And I was about 4 years old, and I got in my Tonka truck, those yellow, metal, aluminum, whatever Tonka trucks. And I saw my brothers and sisters riding their bikes up and down the mountain and camping in Mendocino. And I wanted to do it too. That was my first engagement with fear. I had no fear because I didn't know consequences. I didn't know I was going to crash. If you
Mhm.
think that way, you think, I'm not afraid to crash. I may crash, but I've learned to learn from those crashes. The crashes are huge learning, points to get better if you recover, if you don't get stuck in the crash. So I'm sitting in my Tonka truck and I go down the hill. I tumble, fall, but it didn't stop me. It made me more curious and ambitious about not crashing the next time and getting down that hill without crashing,
Yeah.
and then I got my bike. But in the book, I talk about that. And each chapter is highly condensed, it's like a trail map. There's literal maps throughout the book of a mountain getting through each of the stages.
Mhm.
It's a good coaching book for people who I was coaching for a while with women, and in the even if you're not a mountain biker, you're going to learn from it, the analogies.
Okay. Well, so let's say I'm not a mountain biker. What's one thing that I could learn from picking up your book, or a reader could pick up from reading your book?
Nothing can begin if you're too afraid to start.
Mm, mm,
If you get into that analysis paralysis and you don't take the first step, take the first pedal strike,
mm.
stroke. Nothing can begin if you're too afraid to start. And also, you're only as good as your switchback. So if you're climbing, that means a switchback is like a corner that's kind of sharp and hard to turn. You don't quite know how to navigate getting from point A to point B in your life, but you don't want to be stuck at that elevation and that level. You want to level up. Well, you could either you climbed up to the certain point to get to that turning point, right? You see the top of the mountain where you want to be. You have to visualize getting to the top. You have to want it. But how are you going to get there? Wanting it doesn't mean anything unless you know how to navigate it. It's
Absolutely.
so you have to be in, like with business, one of the principles is get in the right position. You need to be in that right position. If you're not ready to be the CEO or CMO or editor or whatever it is, and you need to take a step down, you need to fall back. That's another principle. Fall back until you're ready to make that turn, right? To get to that top. But if you stay calm and strong through the hardest situations in your life, and you kind of you brace yourself not too hard, because if you brace yourself too hard and you're just stuck on getting over something, you're going to hit the rocks too hard. You're going to hit the challenges with too much impact. If you're light on your handlebars, if you're light on your brakes, and I always say, don't do changes in the change. Make too many changes in the change, right? Because then you don't know what's really working or not working, and you're going to break too fast, and you're going to lose your momentum to kind of smoothly go. You want to smoothly go through the change and kind of keep your eye looking forward, looking ahead, not right down on the ground, because you're going to hit right down on the ground. You're going to hit whatever you're looking at. So if you only aim for, let's say, 100K a year, whatever, you're going to hit that 100K a year. What if you want 1 million a year? You're going to hit that million because that's your goal, and you're going to be locked in, and you're going to figure out everything you want to do to engineer into it, right? Until you get there. But you have to be realistic. You may not have the tools, may not be ready yet, all those things. But if you're determined, you can get there.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful advice that you've just given. And I'm also curious, like, what else can leaders and people who are in find themselves in career transitions, what can they learn from outdoor sports like mountain biking? What
So
else?
people, and it's a good question, people in um, transition from one career to the next, again, going back to that switchback metaphor, you have to learn about like what that finish line is. Is it really for me? Like, do I really want that? What is the money going to be good enough? Is the lifestyle going to be good enough? Is that in other words, do I want to cross that finish line?
Mm.
Because you don't want to waste all the time, money, effort to get there if it isn't really something you want. So commit to that. Commit to your ride. Commit to it. Learn about it first. Ask others that know more. One of the best advice I got from our team manager, Shane Bresnan. He's a pro mountain biker. He rode with us last night. It was a co-ed ride, but when you're riding with pros, you have to let the pros lead. Like just like with the advice I'm going to give you, he said to me, I said, "How do I get?" This was years ago. I just want to get faster. I'm on my brakes too much. I'm stopping. I'm starting. I'm not making momentum. Not getting the momentum I want. He said, and this is the same advice in changing careers and moving up in your career, is you need to ride with people that are better and faster than you,
Wow.
because you don't know how fast you can actually be. One young guy, like he's just had his 24th birthday, like last night or today. We were having beers at the trail house after our ride, and kind of celebrating our ride, our first ride of the year. And I said, Kai, how was it riding with all these fast guys? I said, how did you get so fast, so young? You got 50-year-olds kicking it. his butt riding, and he's like, I kind of have no choice. Like when you ride with people that fast, you have to keep up. So it teaches you inherently what like your limitations are and aren't. You don't know your limitations. That's one of the other theories or principles. You don't know your limitations until you try to hit them. Like I had been going at 10 miles an hour. In my mind, I just made that up. 10 miles an hour. That's my average I want to hit. But in the last couple of weeks, I just started pushing a little bit harder and not being afraid of pushing a little harder, reaching for more. And now I'm at 16 miles an hour on a mountain bike. That's pretty good. On a road bike, that wouldn't be 18 miles an hour would be excellent or great, but that's on a road bike. So my point is that you don't know your limitations until you kind of get exposed to the possibility and be in that club or community of others that are doing it better and faster and smarter than you, and let yourself be humble and influenced by them. Don't think you know it all. Like I thought I knew so much more about racing before I started racing. Just because you're a marketer and you think you know marketing, or just because you're an engineer, there's always room for growth, because there's people who do things in an entirely different new way that you never would have thought to do before. And so if our men, it's a lot has to do with our not being afraid to get out of our own way, get out of your own way, stop putting on the brakes, stop comfort braking in life, and start race braking, where really you brake enough that you're safe in the turns, and so that you don't lose that good momentum in the turn to come out of the change with speed. You want to come out of the change hitting that new position, getting that new VP role, and rolling into it, not just to get through it, just to stop and slow down and not know what you're doing. You want to have that true confidence coming out of the change of moving from one position to the other with some good momentum and speed, that you're able to lead others behind you. You don't want to go so slow and lose all your momentum by braking and doubting yourself and having people crash into you. And then you're like, okay, I got to let them pass me. Then you're back to square one. But if you trust yourself, you've practiced it enough, you become an expert or a pro at something, you're not going to do that. You're going to be way beyond where you thought you were before. You're going to stop the comfort braking. You're going to let it flow. You're going to have more fun. You're going to get to those finish lines faster. And some are really long finish lines, some are short. So you can get there. So with the right people, with the right technology, with the right process that's repeatable, you'll gain that momentum to get to the top faster.
That's all wonderful, and it's really great advice, I think, for leaders, for people in transitions, to not be scared of the transition, and also to make sure that they're plugging into communities as well that may know a little bit more about what they're doing. But as you said, if you know let go of your ego a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
You
that
don't
will,
know what you don't know sometimes. Like you don't know you're not that good at something until you crash. Like or you see someone that is doing it a hell of a lot better than you could ever do. So finding those people, trusting them, and
Mhm.
being willing to say, yeah, like you're right, let go of the ego and say, I want to learn from you. Can I learn from you? Can you work with me? Right?
That's wonderful. Where you let go of the ego, and you can move a lot faster, than you thought you would have.
Hmm. Yeah, and the fear it's fight, flight, or fawn kind of fear threat responses that we all have to keep us safe. Um, our fear can keep us safe. We need that fear to keep us safe. We can't just be idiots out there like killing ourselves off the side of the mountain. Let's say going too fast into something and it burns out. So hold the fear, have the fear, but don't let it have you. Don't let it freeze you and stop you from moving forward. Like keep it in it's a protective mechanism. but don't let it freeze you. Don't let it keep you from trying something you've never. And then I use this a lot in my book. You may get to one mount elevation in your life. You may get to one, like you said, the career point in your life. And then because of all the things that you built up and you learned from the first experience, now you're ready to take it to a next level. It's almost like repeating the whole cycle. You may have a whole new level of fear because now you're doing something like, let's say you went from, going down hills at, 10 miles an hour, then you're up to 20, 15, 30 miles an hour. I'm up to 30 miles an hour. I never thought I'd be at 30 miles an hour without a car or a seatbelt.
Sure.
But I am, and it's just trusting myself, trusting my bike, knowing I'm actually having fun, and
Mhm.
like learning how to have like be fully truly confident, not have a false sense of confidence, having true confidence from experience, right? And I would never have the experience if I didn't take the leap to start this magazine. And I was so afraid to start it, but I'm the kind of person who will go for it anyway. I'll figure it out. Sometimes I decided to partner well with, I've got 4 contributors on our team now, and more people are joining all the time and wanting to write with us, and it's gaining its own momentum. And I think with, the book Good to Great talks about this. Don't make it about yourself. Make it about others you're serving, others servant leadership. It's about a community, and pay it back to the community that's giving so much to you.
That's fantastic. That's really wonderful. And that you're right that you have to pay it forward.
Pay it forward. Yeah, definitely. Especially with mountain biking. I mean, the races can be expensive. The bikes can be quite expensive, but like where we ride, we don't really pay much, maybe a $7 park fee, but it's like giving us so much. So I try to give back with volunteer days, the Redwood Trails Alliance, highlighting their stories. Susie Murphy of the California Mountain Bike Association, and working with Amy Ross, and all of these highlighting and celebrating their stories, of giving back. Bentonville, Arkansas is a town made up of entirely like mountain bike trails, and it's a model for other healthy, happy communities. And we want to shine a spotlight on that, and families are out there riding their bikes all over, and there's new trails being built all the time when other areas are struggling to get it together and get funding and approval. And that's just part of their culture. We're going to build these trails now. We constantly planning and getting it done. Um, like with any community, it's like if we trust and believe in each other, we're partnering well. It's great. It makes our nation great. We can make these kinds of things happen. So it goes way beyond mountain biking.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Liz, I really enjoyed the conversation with you today. It's been really wonderful. Do you have any final takeaways that you like our listeners to walk away with?
I would say don't be afraid to ride. And you can swap that out with anything.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to write that book. Don't be afraid to have that baby. Don't be afraid to ask him to marry you. Don't be afraid to go for that new position. Because if
Mhm.
you're too afraid, then you won't enjoy the fun, enjoy, and fulfillment. We only have one life, right? So we got to make it happen. And sometimes we have to have that special amount of encouragement and support to make it happen. But it's us ultimately that are, we've got our foot on the pedal in life. People can't pedal for us. We could get an e-bike, yeah, and that can accelerate that, but we're still pedaling ourselves, and we're still guiding ourselves. And but the fun part is riding with a bunch of other fun people that are all doing it together. So there's that unity. So yeah, I would just say don't be afraid to ride.
Okay, that is a great sentiment. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome. This has been great. Thank you for
yeah,
having me.
where can people find your book and the magazine?
Oh, on mtbgirlsmagazine.com and on Amazon. My book is on Amazon. If you just type in 23 Principles, it should pop up, or Liz Donahey, 23 Principles, and same with the magazine. It's up there on Amazon. Yeah, you can get it with Amazon Prime in like 2 days. So, yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Again, Liz, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you're searching for work that works for you, I invite you to go to richardtaliaferro.com and schedule a complimentary call with me, and let's talk about it. Thanks for listening, and talk to you next week.